Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Linemiller, your host. I want to thank our sponsor, Farm to Plate. They are creating tomorrow's food business ecosystem today. You can find out more at farmtoplate.io. Thank you so much, Dan Dahl, for being on our podcast today. He is the CEO of Bushwick Kitchen, and I am so excited to dive into all the cool projects he has going on. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Thanks so much, Pam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you. You have the Bushwick Kitchen project, which we're going to dive into today, but you're a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. Like you have this brain that works on innovative ideas. Why don't you tell us how you ended up where you are?
Absolutely. So started my career being recruited out of college to go into consulting, which is a very typical path for a DC-based individual. It's like you either end up on the Hill or in consulting. And realized that being a pseudo government employee was about as far from entrepreneurial business as I could possibly be. Left there and worked at Living Social, running their tools and technology and integrating basically all of their new product offerings into their support solutions. So working with their consumer advocates, their developers, and their project managers to kind of like make them all mesh together as they were kind of on their meteoric rise. Eventually bought by Groupon. And then I left that to go start a soap company with a buddy I went to college with and sell in my sister's basement. And then from there, it's just been consumer packaged goods. I've always had a passion for technology. So there's a little bit of intertwining of the technology throughout. And then Bushwick Kitchen, we took over that in 2018 and have really enjoyed the food space. I don't get a lot of time to cook, but I do enjoy eating. And so it's a perfect blend for, being able to be creative while, having a product that I can relate to and also share with the world and introduce into people's homes so that they can share it with their friends and family.
Yeah, well, we love that's quite a fun story and how you kind of built upon and really moved forward, finding your niche every time and building upon what you had before. We love technology and innovation here at Future Foodcast, and I know you've applied a lot of your background to what you're doing at Bushwick Kitchen. Why don't you tell us about Bushwick Kitchen for those of our listeners who might not have heard of it before?
Yeah, absolutely. So Bushwick Kitchen started in 2014 with a foodie and an entrepreneur getting together in Bushwick, Brooklyn, with this idea to kind of start a project and commercialize it under a month for under $5,000. So one of those kind of like fun challenges that spiraled into a company that sold, over 9,000 bottles to 27 countries in the first year. And
well, can we pause right there? So this started out as like a throwing down of the gauntlet to develop a company with you just $5,000. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was inspired by, the foodie was the foodie co-founder was kind of in South America and was seeing as he was touring around, people taking glass jars and taking these long skinny peppers and infusing them and making spicy honey. And so that was the first product that was created in his Bushwick Kitchen apartment. And so paired with the sort of entrepreneurial co-founder who just sold his business out of Boston, came down to New York, they kind of worked together and had like the perfect yin and yang of the foodie, spirit and maker spirit, and then the entrepreneur sort of to commercialize the business. And we entered the picture, and myself and my team in 2018, we took over the business to help sort of like scale it to sort of the next level. And you mentioned a lot of the entrepreneurial ventures. I like to say that entrepreneurship is a career and also an affliction. And so it's once your mind is sort of engineered in a certain way, you kind of can't ignore it. You see the world in a different way, analyzing for problems, trying to find solutions, trying to figure out how you can get something from a sketch on a napkin onto a shelf in a store. And that's kind of part of the thrill.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that excites you because you certainly have been able to help Bushwick Kitchen scale to the next level. Tell us about what you're doing now, some of the products you've got, and how your technology part of your brain has also come into play with that, I know, with online presence. We have
absolutely.
A picture.
So for those of you listening, this is I'm holding up an image of our first type of product. This was our spicy honey. It's kind of the current situation of how it's made today. It's evolved a little bit since then, but as we talked about the evolution, so we started with this, idea of infusing peppers into honey And then from there, kind of built out an entire line focused around unique flavors and condiments, taking those kind of tired things like honey that your grandma would typically put in tea, and figuring out other ways to infuse unique flavors, and educating consumers about the variety of uses for those products more than just putting it in tea. How do you use spicy honey in a margarita? How do you put it on pizza? How do you use it as part of your charcuterie plate? And then
Yeah.
we've kind of evolved into other branch outs, away from just honey. Went to maple syrups and have a whole line of flavored maple syrups. We're also known for our gochujang sriracha, which is kind of like taking the traditional sriracha, bringing a whole bunch of that umami flavor in from the gochujang, which is a fermented Korean bean paste. And then we built a whole line of products around that. So we have a super spicy version, a curried version. And then, of course, all of that can be bundled into gift sets and provided to whoever, whether it's a corporate gift, it's to bring to a housewarming party. And that's, been a model that, as we've sort of identified how we've grown over the years, it's really been, getting people to discover via gifting, and they come back and they love the product. And so they buy it on a regular basis. And then they, in the next gifting season, gift it to someone else. And so we have this kind of like flywheel of use, reuse, and repeat, which we
And that organic growth is really powerful, that word of mouth. And when they give it and somebody tries it and then they in turn become a customer, you get the equivalent of compound interest. That's great. Well, Dan, I'm thinking about, there's a big move in the food industry towards fusion of different cultural foods out in the marketplace. You'll see where you have like this fusion restaurant between, I don't know, Asian and Mexican or whatever it might be. You're kind of doing the equivalent. You're combining different things that you wouldn't necessarily think go together, things to pair, like sauces, or like you said, the honey that you are going to have with another product. And I will say your website does a great idea. I mean, does a great job of giving ideas to us of how to use some of the products that you've created. Because like you said, the Korean bean paste, I don't even know what to do with that. So I would need to go to your website to figure out, when you've combined that with something, okay, what do I use this with? And once somebody tries one of your products, then they probably say, well, what else do they have? And go try something else new that's fun and creative.
I think that's all, Pam. That's our entire like position as a company.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brands that have existed for a long time. Ketchup's a good example of that, where you order a burger and fries, and you have the ketchup as like a complimentary piece to it to dip your burgers and fries to. But the way that we think about sauces and condiments are, how do you start your dish by holding your sauce, and saying, okay, I've got a curry sriracha. What can I do in my cupboard, in my kitchen? It's kind of like your own chopped adventure. Like, how can I build a dish around this? Kind of like that statement piece of furniture, and you kind of design your room around that one piece. And that's kind of how we view our sauces and condiments. And to your point, we know that it's sometimes intimidating for people to get something new and sort of not really know how to use it, versus like the quintessential ways that you would use maple syrup for pancakes on Sunday, right? But there's so many other different avenues that you can use it. You can use it for barbecuing. You can use it to make a salad dressing. You can use it to make your Manhattan. And so for us, one of the biggest things that we aim to do is work to educate consumers to become culinary explorers around multiple different facets of the food world, not just in using a condiment as a condiment, but how do you use it as a layer for another dish, as a basting agent, as something that you can use in your bar. And for us, that's fantastic, because the more different ways that you apply it, the more you're willing to share, the more you post on social, the more you consume. And then, of course, the turn rates at our retailers are higher and higher and higher, because instead of using it for pancakes on Sunday, you're trying to put it in 4 or 5 meals a week to kind of figure out how you can, use the sauce as a creative expression.
Well, I really like the title Culinary Explorer. I think I would like to have that title. So just creating things in my kitchen and figuring out how I'm going to use these different sauces and additives that you have created. And I think, well, during the pandemic, a lot of people kind of started cooking more at home that maybe they hadn't cooked at home before. Did that impact your business?
I think for most startups, COVID was a very interesting time. It was kind of a two-phase approach for us. We sell a lot in, cheese shops and wine stores and gourmet gift shops. And The gift shop in Nantucket was closed and like essentially indefinitely, right? Tourism was at an all-time low. But then we saw that switch, like you mentioned, Pam, to people sort of saying, well, if I can't go out to eat and my culinary exploration is trying a new restaurant around New York City or Boston or whatever it may be, how do I bring that into my own home? And what are these kind of things that are the easy upgrades? Because not everyone, has the inclination or the willingness to kind of like sit in front of a cookbook or pull a recipe up online and kind of be really creative. So how do we sort of say, okay, you can take one of these sauces and just adding that to your meal changes the flavor experience that you're having with your noodles dish, with your eggs in the morning,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And I think that's kind of where we saw a bit of a resurgence for the online customer kind of activating and trying to be, that explorer within their own home versus just their city.
Well, I think it's a way to impress your friends and family and just keep it in the cupboard. Like you don't tell them till after they've tried it and say, wow, how did you create this? And then you can bring out this one additional ingredient you added to this dish that you've made all these years. I love experimenting on people. I'm absolutely going to have to try that. But you
Yep.
told me a fun story when we were talking earlier about Walmart. Can you retell our audience, talking about word of mouth marketing? And
As a small growth brand, starting in New York, we were really fortunate to have one of those kind of like dream things happen to us where, these large retailers, and we've had a few of them kind of reach out in our contact form, which for any of you guys that are listening that are in consumer packaged goods, it's just very bizarre. It doesn't happen. Yeah, we typically have to knock the doors down, prove that we can compete against the larger players, prove that there's a market space and a product market fit in the retail location, justify the price point, go to the line reviews. It's a whole process to try to get into stores. And then we get a cold note from Walmart, like asking to set up a call because we've already been put in the planogram. So for you, those of you that don't know that, that's kind of the shelf set that the buyers set up in their kind of mock store that eventually, come and it gives them the blueprint, if you will, to how to set up the store for the next iteration of the products that are coming into the store. And the conversation sort of went like, you're already in, just allow me to sell your product, which is a very bizarre. And so they've been a great partner for a number of years with us. And we do have our maple syrup there and our vegan plant-based pancake mix there, which is a really interesting one. And it's been an interesting evolution to kind of support that expansion of the brand into more of a sort of mass market channel while still trying to, pay credence to the specialty channel that kind of grew our business.
absolutely. And I think whoever got that cold inquiry through your website probably thought they were being pumped or something, because it doesn't happen, and especially from a large retailer like Walmart.
Yeah, it was like, is this spam or real? I'm like, well, that looks like it's from a Walmart.com email, so that's probably real. And it turns out to be real. But yeah, more often than not, it's too good to be true.
You did. Congratulations on that. But you've also put in the work. You've gotten B Corp certified, I think you said earlier. That's not to go unnoticed, because that's a very difficult certification. There's just a lot involved in that. And what
Yes.
other accolades do you have?
We B Corp is a huge one, and
Yeah.
part of our ethos across all the brands that we run is really to try to give back and make the world a better place, whether it's environmentally, societally, economically. And B Corp is just a really great entity to kind of almost provide an audit, if you will, of all the different ways that you can impact your society, whether it's your employees or environment. All of that is being audited, and if anyone's gone through the B Corp process, they know how arduous it can be. It's months of reviews and documentation and support. But next to that, we always like to apply to assess our growth on the Inc. 500 list, which we've been on a few times. We apply to all the industry awards for spicy foods or SoFi awards. We just won 2 awards for our new hot sauce, which is fantastic. I don't know what the exact number is over the last couple of years, but it's probably around 20 or 25 awards across a number of different, fiery foods or SoFi or, international flavors. It's just a good
Very
validation
cool.
for us that we know that the products that we're making are sort of, up to the standards that we believe they are. And our whole theory there is if I'm going to launch a product, if it's not at least, a 4.5 to 5 stars on Amazon, it doesn't get launched. There's no reason. The consumer is too critical. There's too many avenues to provide feedback. And so we try to make the best products possible with the most utility possible so that people can really enjoy it in a number of different facets.
Yeah, and that proof, whether it be social proof or the awards that you're given through official organizations, certainly growth in the Inc. 500, the work that you went through to get B Corp certified, which those in the food industry really understand, like you said, arduous process. I think that's probably a bit of an understatement. Like it's just really intense. From what I understand, I don't have a food company. I haven't gone through it myself. I've just heard from several of you who have that it's really a big deal. But the consumer can be very picky. They can be brutal, honestly. So if you don't have that social proof, I mean, they're going to let you know if a product that you've got out there is worthy or not, and you're going to be able to figure that out. So I'm glad you're paying attention to all that. And you mentioned Amazon, so you also sell your products through Amazon?
Yeah, they're our largest customer. And, the way that we view Amazon, it's a great way to make money if you set up the business correctly. It's a great way to arbitrage for new products. Like our honeycomb is a great example of a product we launched, directly from Amazon Insights. And that kind of goes back to a little bit of that technology background that we talked about earlier, and kind of looking at how to utilize technology to benefit the business. But at the end of the day, it's a defensive mechanism as well. There's still over 65% of people that when they're shopping in retail will pull up that same product on Amazon to check the reviews, check the price, make sure they're getting a good deal, make sure that it's a product worth buying. And if you don't have a really strong position on Amazon, where you have price control and significant amount of reviews to give buyers confidence in taking your product on for the first time into their own homes, then you're just not going to win. And so for us, it's a kind of a critical piece as a foundational building block for eventually selling into a wider array of retailers.
Yeah, I think it just helps to, grease the wheels, so to speak, to help them move into making a decision to buy your product faster when you have more
Absolutely.
social proof and you've got some of these other certifications. Well, it's really exciting to hear all about what you're doing at Bushwick Kitchen. And I don't know if there's something else you might want to tell our audience before we go, because this has been just a great interview. I've learned so much, and I'm excited to try some of your products.
Yeah, thank you so much. You can always find us at bushwickkitchen.com, of course, Amazon. We're at Bushwick Kitchen. Our new hot sauce would be kind of the newest thing that we've launched. If you haven't tried our honeycomb, we've been trying to build slowly pieces so that you can build out your full charcuterie board, but the raw honeycomb is a great addition. And for anyone that's listening, that's an entrepreneur, especially over the last couple of years, keep on being resilient. Your trying times and how you've prospered through those make you a stronger leader, a stronger business, and you're better off for it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Daniel, because that is definitely coming from the source of an entrepreneur who knows about being resilient in all kinds of different times. So to our entrepreneurs out there, thanks for the encouragement. If you've enjoyed this interview with Dan, we would like to know who else you'd like to hear us interview. Leave us some comments, subscribe if you'd like to get the next podcast next week. We would love to have you. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.